Welcome back to Team Talk, ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team. Joe O'Neill in today till 5, and then we go to coverage of tonight's national championship game between Ohio State and Alabama. And speaking of college football, we bring in the head coach at the University of New Mexico, Danny Gonzales. And Danny, I guess if you're going to win any 2 games in a row throughout the course of the season, I know you want to win them all, but winning the last 2 is not a bad way to go out, Coach.
It gives you first off, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. And second, the question, it gives you a lot of momentum going into the offseason, which we need. So it was exciting to win those last 2. It kind of showed the guys that, the path we're on, if you just continue to stay that path, that we're going in the right direction. And when good things happen, it was fun, and I was proud of them and really excited to see them have that success the last 2 weeks.
Well, the words that I heard all season long from you in press conferences, post game stuff was toughness, physicality, discipline, and it really came to light. I think the last 2 games, but all season long I did see that out of your team. But boy, against Fresno in that last game, I think the fans got a chance to see what you were talking about because, after every single play, it seemed like the Fresno State guys were the guys getting up off of the turf after you guys were. You guys really put it to them.
They really started, our kids really started believing in what we're preaching about how hard you have to play, how fast you have to get to the ball. And we want 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys there. Especially on defense. I mean, on offense too, but on defense, you get 6 or 7 guys, and they're having to climb off that pile. It wears on you by the end of the game. And Coach Werheim and those guys are preaching the same thing on offense. We want the O-linemen to chase the running backs and receivers downfield and see if they can get an extra block in between the whistles. And we're getting really close to understanding what our expectation is of playing hard and playing through the whistle. I mean, we want to be right on the verge of being too much and trying to teach them how to pull that back and play within those white lines and play the right way. And we had a couple of them that went overboard in the Fresno game, so they were good teaching moments to pull our kids aside and say, look, you can't do that. I mean, we want you to play hard and we want you to get all the shots in, but you have to do it the right way. And it's easier when you win to show them on tape because they seem to be a lot more attentive. And as we've gone through the offseason here and I've kind of looked at how things played out, we really didn't get much of a fall camp because of all of the suspending of the season. It's going to start here. And then we had the restrictions in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County of not being able to practice in groups. So really the first 4 games were almost like a fall camp. I mean, we kind of got to practice when we moved out to Vegas. We got to do little things and we improved weekly. And I thought we had a really bad day against Utah State. I mean, it was the comments of we're a terrible football team, which I truly believe we were at that point. But they kept believing, and they kept moving forward in the direction we wanted them to. And the last 2 games against Wyoming and Fresno, they played pretty good, and we had a pretty good football team out there that made success and showed that they were working in the right direction.
Yeah, and you faced challenges from the get-go, too. I mean, obviously, nothing that would have prepared you for what went on, in March through the start of your season. But, Coach, I happened to be in your offices when you had just gotten hired, and you guys had a lot of things challenges right out of the gate in terms of numbers of players and then where you were with regard to the recruiting deadline for the first one and the second one. So that kind of mentality started almost the day you got here.
It did. You made a great point. I mean, they hired me on December 17th, National Signing Day. The early National Signing Day was December 18th. We didn't sign anybody. It was kind of more recruit the kids that we have on our campus to get them to stay, to show them the direction, and the majority of them did. And now we'll have some defections after they've seen how we do things for the first year, some of it being normal, some of it being abnormal. And the ones that don't feel that they can do the workload and do the things that we do, we'll move on. And the ones that don't and love what we're doing, we'll move forward with. And we have had challenging times since day one. But you know what? This whole We Are New Mexico thing, I think there's a lot of challenging things behind it, and I think it's what makes this place special. So, I mean, we're making progress in the right direction, and I'm really excited about the kids that we have going forward and the coaches we have going forward.
We're talking with Lobo football coach Danny Gonzales on the Daniels Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline. And, Coach, how do you balance, going back to this toughness and physicality with your limited numbers that you had, how do you teach that physicality and whatnot in practice and, quite honestly, do it without making sure that, you get guys injured. I mean, that's got to be like a delicate balance for you guys.
It is. And when you have a normal fall camp, you can scrimmage 2 or 3 times during the fall camp, go full speed and take them all the way to the ground so that they kind of get used to it and work those things out. When you have a full spring ball, you can go full speed and tackle live to the ground and get those things worked out, because I think the only way to really get good at doing something is actually doing it. And then once you get into season, your tackling comes during game day. And now during practice, I think there's a lot of full speed stuff that we do. We don't take them all the way to the ground, but they run into each other full speed. And, you're going to watch the team tonight in the national championship game being Alabama, who practices the exact same way all year long. And I think once your kids get used to the understanding of this is what we do, it makes them better football players. It makes them tougher. And if they do things the right way, and we're in the process of teaching them how to do that, if they do them the right way, full speed, they're actually less apt to get injured than if you do something half speed and you guys falling on top of each other, tangled up, you lose knees. So we're in the process of that. Now, during the season, before the Wyoming game, we did a lot of 1-versus-1, offense versus defense, because I thought at that point, you know what, we need to get better as football players. It's not so much scheme that's beating us. It's just that we're not very good football players. So we did a lot more 1-versus-1 during the Wyoming and Fresno weeks than we would normally do. But obviously you can see it helps because of the outcome. And if we get a true fall camp and a true spring ball this year, we'll be a lot further along than we were at any point this football season, which gives me a lot of excitement because we've made progress, but we have a long way to go still.
Yeah, and the epitome of that, I had to, I watched some of the NFL games over the weekend, and I, of course, saw the Tampa Bay game against the Washington football team, and I see this quarterback from Washington who has basically zero experience, Taylor Heineke, and it's just impossible not to think of Isaiah Chavez and, the performance he had along with the rest of the guys of the team. But it punctuated the whole thing of, this is about team and it's next man up and we'll worry about how to overcome. Don't you agree?
Oh, I completely agree. I think Taylor Heineke did a great job. I mean, he was a good player at Old Dominion and then was going to play in the XFL and went through some practice squad time. And obviously he's a competitive young man, and you saw that play out in the playoff game the other night.
Yeah.
I thought Isaiah Chavez, he's a competitive young man, and the people that are from here and live in the Rio Rancho area obviously know how much of a competitor he is. He took his team all the way to the state championship game with an opportunity to win it. And he just kept doing the same things for us during the year. I went back and watched the TV copies of all of our games just to get a different perspective. And in the Nevada game, you can see Isaiah on the sideline as attentive and as excited into the game when Trey Hall's coming off the side. All those things. And that was a young man that really wasn't expecting to play at that point. So he was always into it. He was always excited. And then when he got his opportunity against Wyoming, he made the most of it. And then when Connor got hurt and broke his wrist and it was him or nobody else, he never batted an eye. He didn't change the way he played. Now, I've said this a bunch of times here over the last few weeks. I don't think we can play our quarterbacks the way we did with Trey Hall and Isaiah and Connor and the longevity of this program to have a successful program. I think there's times that you can run them. I think there's certain games and situations. And if you watch the Buffalo Bills against Indianapolis on Saturday, they kind of went to that model. Josh Allen, who was a great quarterback at the University of Wyoming, they didn't run him very much during the season. And if you watch the game on Saturday, playoff football, it was a completely different story. And Indianapolis had a really hard time stopping a lot of those quarterback runs. So I think there's times to use them. We'll continue to go down that path. We'll still have some of the triple option stuff that we had in our package, but we're going to have to protect the quarterback a little bit more. But Isaiah's a competitor, and I'm super proud of the young man, and it gave us a lot of momentum winning those last 2 games.
Oh, no doubt. And, a lot of people talk about your defense, Coach, and we know that's going to evolve. But, Coach Wareheim, you mentioned him earlier. This offense figured out a way to move the sticks. And, with your mentality, it's almost like when you get to even your own 40, you guys are thinking 4-down territory, Coach.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I think the communication was pretty good between myself and Coach Wareheim. I mean, when we got in situations, depending on what the score was in the game, how good we were playing on defense or how well we weren't playing on defense, will determine a lot of those situations. But if we have good communication on the headphones and I can tell Coach Wareheim, hey, man, you've got 2 or 3 plays here. If it's second down, I say, hey, you got 2 plays here. That dramatically opens up your playbook on a 3rd and 8. I mean, you can run power to set up a 4th down, a manageable 4th down. You don't have to try and get the 1st down on 3rd and 8. And then a lot of times you have tendencies that get broken, and you run power, which we did a couple times on 3rd and 8, or you run a quarterback counter or something, and they're expecting you to drop back and pass the ball. You can get some big-time plays off of those. So I thought we did a really good job. I thought Coach Wareheim did a really good job of dialing up some plays to give them a chance to continue to be successful. And I think possessions are important. I mean, I'm a big proponent. We've done studies a lot that if you take the ball first, you're going to end up with an extra possession sometime during the game because of turnovers. So that's a big mantra that we try and always start with the offense first, and then we'll play defense coming out of halftime and make whatever adjustments. But I thought we made some progress there, and we are going to be aggressive. We are going to go for it on 4th downs, and we are going to try and just go ahead and win the ball game. And that goes for the entire 4 quarters, not just wait till the very end and try and win it. We're going to try and win it from the very beginning.
Look at you inserting a little bit of analytics into it too there, Coach. I appreciate it. Well, hey, I'm going to get greedy here. I'm getting a chance to talk to you on the same night as the national championship, Ohio State, Alabama. Your just general thoughts of what you're going to look forward to tonight in the game, Coach.
Well, one, if watching the game, I mean, last year I tweeted out a picture. I was watching the game from my office because my family wasn't here yet. Okay. But I'm super excited that I have my family to sit down and watch the game with me tonight here at the house.
Yep.
My wife is a huge football fan, and so she's out there right now making nachos, getting everything ready. But I think what everybody's going to see is speed. You're going to see how fast and how physical these 2 football teams are. I mean, Alabama they might have the best offensive line. And talking to Coach Arnett, the defensive coordinator at Mississippi State, who used to be on our staff, both played here at New Mexico and then was at San Diego State, and who's a hot name right now all over the country. He said Alabama's offensive line might be the prettiest that we've ever seen, that he's ever seen, and we've shared some sidelines together. So I'm excited to watch those guys play. And then, I mean, their skill guys on both sides of the ball are just unbelievably fast and physical. And then Ohio State, I mean, Justin Fields, it'll be really interesting to see how well he plays with his rib injury that he sustained against Clemson. And then, I mean, their running game is unbelievable. I mean, they got the young man that transferred from Oklahoma. And then once again up front, they're just huge and they're athletic. And then defensively, they finished in the top 8 in the country in total defense the last 3 years. So both teams are really good on both sides of the ball. I think the thing that excites me the most about watching these games tonight, and if you watch Devonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, he's their gunner on the punt team. He's on their kickoff team. I mean, those guys, it just shows you that nobody's too big for anything. And that excites me about watching those guys because we use a lot of our guys. I mean, when Brian Urlacher was here, he was the gunner on our punt team too. And we'll use a bunch of starters on. I mean, Brandon Shook this past year for us was started on the punt team. We use a lot of starters because I think special teams, that 1/3 of the game is just as important as offense and defense, and oftentimes the game is won in that aspect. So watching tonight's game, you'll see a bunch of starters for both teams, and it's not just because it's a national championship game. It's just the way their programs are run.
Well, I know it's more complicated than this, but with so many years as a defensive coordinator before you became the head coach, do you think that the tendencies for these defenses are to bring pressure or just protect themselves with guys back, or is it going to be a combination of both that varies based on down and distance?
Well, as being on the defensive side for so long, I mean, when you go into a ball game, you kind of have to determine whether the team that you're playing is better than you, are you even, or are you better than them? And I think both of these guys are going in with the attitude that they're better than the guy they're playing. So I think you'll see both sides on both defenses being very aggressive. Now, the advantage that they have that a lot of teams don't, and we kind of had a little bit of success with it in the Fresno game, but when you can get pressure with a 4-man rush, you can do a lot of things in the secondary to really screw with the quarterback. And both of these guys have been really good with a 4-man rush. Now, obviously, Chase Young last year at Ohio State was a special breed, and he's with the Washington football team right now and doing those same things at that level that he did in college. They don't have a guy as dynamic as that, but those four up front seem to get to the quarterback pretty darn quick. So I think there'll be some blitz packages in there tonight that they haven't seen to try and give themselves an advantage. But I would anticipate both those guys being very aggressive and doing what they do because they believe they're better than the guy they're playing.
It's funny also right away when I asked you about the game, you hone in on like the offensive and defensive lines. Like, a lot of things fans don't really pay as much attention to. And you've got some like thoroughbreds on both sides of each of those teams' lines.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, the game is always won up front. That's where the most contact is made. I mean, that's why it's hard for a true freshman to come in there. The further away they are from the ball, the faster that they can play and have success. I mean, it's easy for skill guys to start as true freshmen and play. But when you got an offensive line or a defensive line in there going against a grown man that's been in there for 3 or 4 years, that's been through a college weight room program for 3 or 4 years, and they're just mean and they play the game the right way, it's really hard to do that. So I enjoy watching those guys up front battle because it's the way football's supposed to be played. And if you have that right mentality up front, you've got a chance to be very successful in the game of football.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the nachos with your family. And thanks for bringing us up to speed on Lobos football. And I'm sure we'll talk again very soon. Appreciate you, Coach Gonzales.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on. We will be talking soon because the second National Signing Day is coming up. We got some exciting things. We got some really exciting things. I mean, I just want to remind everybody out there, wash your hands, wear your mask, protect yourself, stay home. Let's beat this virus. Let's continue to do those things so that we can all celebrate in University Stadium next year. Thank you for all you guys do for us, and go Lobos.
Okay, appreciate it, Coach. All right, that's Danny Gonzales joining us on the Daniels Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline. Appreciate Coach Gonzales. Could have talked to him for another hour. When we come back, another guy I enjoy talking to, Scott Galletti. We're going to talk about the latest news coming out of Lobo basketball. They're going to be setting up camp in St. George, Utah for a while. They've got a game scheduled against Dixie State on Wednesday before their 2 games at UNLV. We're also going to talk about the national championship, the NFL players, and more. You're listening to Team Talk, ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team.